Troy. Thanks for coming in. What first your impressions of the match yesterday? I guess the 90-minute match and then the 30.
Yeah.
The 30 extra.
Sure. Yeah, look, I would probably go even break it down smaller than that. I thought the first 45 minutes with, a lot of the guys that we expect to start, even with a couple guys out, it was a really good effort from the group. And I thought we had a lot of control over the match. There were some moments that Nashville asked questions of us as well. And so we gave up a goal early in the match that we didn't do so well with, but even some of the problems that they posed, I thought we handled quite well. Then we made some changes at halftime just to prepare for Houston, and I thought the majority of the second half was good. It was under control. We had a couple dangerous moments, and in the end, Nashville gets a goal right at the end, and that's disappointing to me. Even you were there, you got to see the collision, even if that's called a foul or not, which I certainly want to protect our goalkeepers in preseason, especially in Luis Peraza. I thought that the match was very even, and in the end, like I said a week ago, we want to view these matches as an opportunity to go and try to create a winning mindset and a winning mentality. So I think we did that in portions of the match, but not in the full 90 minutes. And then the last period was great for us because we got to see 4 young players step into the field and from our academy, and actually 5. And that's something that we're trying to build as well, for the bigger picture of our entire club. So I think we've gotten a really good snapshot throughout preseason of what the group looks like and the things we've wanted to work on. I think you're now seeing them come to fruition even more. And Houston will be our final test before we get to Toronto, and I'm looking forward to that.
Some of the regulars sat out completely yesterday.
Yeah.
I imagine that's just part of management, and then Saturday is your last true test.
Exactly. Some guys yesterday, though, were just carrying like little injuries that, we didn't want to push them at all. I mean, we were able to start 5-6 guys that I think we should expect to see again on Saturday, and hopefully they're going to go the full 90 minutes. But Lucas Bartlett being out, Jared being out, Peglo, Gabby, Schnegg, these are all guys that will definitely compete to be in the 11.
Yeah. Kojima looked really good.
Yes.
Wonder if you could talk a little bit about him, his acquisition, and what you've seen from him in these few weeks, where it seems like it'll position him for some quality time.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's good for you to be able to see him in person, prior to the season starting, because when you see that guy, how he works in person in training, you were able to come out and see us train, and then you obviously see the match, Steve. Like, his tenacity is what I was describing a week ago, that if you are a fan of DC United, then you're going to love the way this guy plays. Extremely intense, but very skillful at the same time. He scores a wonderful goal, and it's an impressive moment for us, but he also has so much more influence over the match, and I think really settles us in the match to be able to find our rhythm. And it's a guy that he comes out of the college system, and he gets drafted by St. Louis, and someone that we spoke about and probably would have loved to have in last year, but it didn't work out. And there was an ability for Ali Mackay, Caleb Shreve, Eamon Dunleavy to go to work and figure out a way to get him to DC United. And I give those guys so much credit for being able to work, the type of ability for us in our roster movement to just use the mechanisms that we had at our disposal to get that done. And I expect him to play a very big role in our team this year.
This is your first chance to speak on Ted's trade.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that, and I guess just obviously it's not just you that makes those type of decisions, but faith was put into him with the contract upgrade last year.
Yeah.
What changed over the last few months, and where things ended up?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that a lot changed in that regard. So what I told Ted, to him, just directly to him personally, because there's a good relationship there between the two of us, and then I said it in front of our team, and before he departed for Colorado, and he spoke to our team. I just told him he's a player that I always wanted to work with, and throughout the last year, it's someone that fulfilled what I was expecting, and that's why we rewarded him with being able to take a step in regards to being a U22 for us. If we have players that come through our academy and then they sign a first-team contract, then they produce, then we'd rather reward those players, prior to going and looking for other U22s. That's part of our mindset towards how we want to utilize those positions. And then I think, the value that another club shows in him shows that he had an impactful year. And that's when the business side of things comes into play. And, I take full ownership, and I told Ted that I'm a part of that decision towards, ultimately him going to Colorado. And it's myself, it's Allie, it's Caleb, our ownership group. We're all going to be aligned in that. And these transactions happen, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you think any less of a player or something drastic changes. We just saw it as an opportunity to get some value for a player that we liked, but ultimately we're going to use that and hopefully go get someone else now too.
Good, Sam.
Great, thanks, Troy. Next, we'll go to Dave Johnson.
Hey, Troy. Here we are. We're almost a week out. Do you have a vision of what you hope you see come February 22nd as it's coming together?
Well, first off, part of my vision is you and Bruce I see on the call, and that's no disrespect to anybody else. I like seeing you two guys here. That means we're getting close to the season, and it's good. It's good to see you guys. Good to hear your voice. Yeah, there's a lot of the vision that I could probably share with you for what I want 2025 to look like, but I want to double down on the things that we did very well last year at a really high level, but I want to do those things all the time. And then on the things that we didn't do well, I think, if you saw us in preseason, you would say that we took a major step forward, and those things were conceding too many goals. We haven't really conceded too many goals through the run of play in 90 minutes in most of our matches. And beyond that, we haven't conceded very many opportunities on goal. And I think that has a lot to do with how we're defending, clearly, but also, as I've talked about, we needed to improve with the ball so we have more control over matches. And not only do we want to have more control in that area, but we want to be dynamic whenever we decide to start going forward. And so that's still a work in progress, but what I see is a very aggressive team against the ball in a lot of different areas. When we get broken, we recover really well together. And then when we're with the ball, we're exciting, but we're also under control. And I think that's going to give us more of a holistic look at our game model improving from 2024 to 2025.
What else have you learned about your team?
Yeah.
You're now working with them for a second full year, and obviously you've introduced new faces, but you're always learning about your team.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time, Dave, in learning about the person, through this preseason period in particular, and what makes them tick and what's important to them, what their family's like. Things that have been difficult in their lives, things that have been highlights in their lives. And when you ask me what my vision is, I ask every player and staff member what their vision is for themselves in 2025. And we share a lot of that information with one another, and we challenge one another, and we try to hold one another accountable. And so the things I've learned are probably more beyond what we see in training and in matches and what we're trying to improve on the field. It's a lot of stuff off the field for even players in year two, but particularly players in year one, as we're bringing in, 13, 14 new players into our club.
Good stuff.
Next, we'll go to another legend, Bruce Murray.
Hi, Troy. How are you?
I'm good, man. Hey, Bruce, you are a legend, but hey, that's no disrespect to Steve, by the way. Steve's a legend too in the room, man.
That's very nice of you. You look very rested. You look like the weather's taking care of you guys down there pretty well.
It is.
Good. For me, a couple of quick ones. Opening day is always interesting, difficult. All the changes on both sides. Toronto, obviously, with a new coach, my old teammate Robin Fraser. Not knowing a lot about him and all the changes with United as well. As a coaching staff, how do you guys approach that specific game?
Yeah, we try to get as much information possible, as I'm sure they will on us, and that's hard because you're pulling from preseason, and the games can tell a little bit of a picture, but I'm sure they're in the same place we are, where you're dealing with maybe a couple injuries here or there. You're playing a group for 45 minutes and then changing an entire group. So you can get a snapshot of a team through some of the information we can gather in preseason, but it's going to be a tough one to prepare for. What we absolutely will know, though, is someone like Robin's going to have his group really organized, and that's always been the case for any team that he's been the head coach of, and they'll be very well prepared. So we're going to have to do the same on our end, that's for sure.
And then secondly, Dave and I had the opportunity to talk to a couple players during the preseason. Sam made them available. We talked about, they talked about not wanting to be in a struggle in the middle of July. The mentality is we're better than that. That's the idea. But for me, red cards, too many goals conceded, that was kind of the issue in that struggle. In terms of how you address that, is that a conversation, because it's almost impossible to replicate that stuff in preseason. How do you go about addressing that? And clearly, if we can address that, we can really do a lot better.
Yeah, it's a little bit of what I was describing to Dave in terms of like the vision that I would like to see from the group, and that'll help control the situations that you're talking about. So when we get broken down, we have to be able to recover into positions that we're not putting ourselves in an extreme disadvantage. So you're having to make a foul, and you're in these emergency situations. Same thing with the ball. I think a lot of times with the ball, we would put ourselves in bad positions because I've said this countless times since the end of the season. I have to do a better job giving us our structure with the ball. But then after that happens, players have to take ownership over the decisions that they make. And again, too many times we didn't have the right structure, and maybe a bad decision was made. And now again, we're putting ourselves into an emergency situation. And we can avoid that. We can avoid that with better coaching. We can avoid that with better decisions by the players. And that has absolutely been our focus for the first 4 or 5 weeks.
Awesome. Safe travels, Troy.
All right, thank you.
Next, we'll go to Donald Blind from the District Press.
Thank you, Sam. Hey, Troy, good to see you. I'm following up two legends, so hopefully this should be okay. Going back to a question from earlier, you mentioned some of the, not injuries, but guys you had knocks that are keeping them out of the preseason games. Just to clarify, is there anything that you're concerned about that would keep anyone out for the opener next weekend?
Yeah, I mean, and it's good to have you on. Thank you, as always, for being with us. Connor Antley will be out, and he's still probably another, I hope, month away-ish from getting back into the team. He's making great progress, but, of course, he's coming off a major injury last year. He looks good, though. Jackson Hopkins will be out for a good period of time, probably until May. And then Hakeem Karamoko is someone that also will be out probably until April, May. And those three, I think, we all knew what the circumstances were for each of those coming into the preseason. And then Jared Stroud just has probably a week to 2 week issue that I don't think is going to be major, but it could spill into next week. I'm hopeful that it doesn't, because he's someone that we definitely want to be there on opening day. But that's the update right now.
One of the things I wanted to update on is the pecking order of your goalkeepers. This obviously was the area of biggest turnover from last season to this season. Now that you've had a few more weeks of practice, game film underneath your belt, do you have a starter backup combo in mind, or is that still up for competition?
Still evaluating. I was able to see Luis Barraza, so that was his first 90 minutes yesterday against Nashville, and that was great because he was dealing with a little bit of an injury in the beginning of our preseason, so it was great to get him fit, and I think he's going to feel really good after that 90 minutes. June has been very good for us, and we've enjoyed having him in. I think he's shown his talent, but also his potential. And then Jordan Farr has even gotten a fair amount of minutes in preseason. So we're still evaluating it. I probably won't make that decision until early next week. But what I can say is all three guys have fulfilled what we expected them to do. And I think that in that department, regardless of what the pecking order is that I choose, I'd say that those guys are all going to play a very, very important role throughout our entire season.
Last question I have for you. I think it's been the first time we've talked to you since Brandon Cervania officially signed with the club. Can you talk about how you see him fitting into the lineup? And do you have him more in a central midfield role? I know he's operated a little bit at the 10. Do you see him pressing up to do so?
Yeah, the reason I smile when you ask that is, I'm really happy with all the new signings that we've had this year. But Brandon is a guy that I always joke with him. Whenever I was at New Mexico United, we played at Dallas in the Open Cup, and he scored one of the most phenomenal goals that I've seen against us. And he has that ability, so he can play a little bit higher up the field. But he's also a guy that what we recognize is he has. As we try to improve with the ball, you have to have personnel that is comfortable doing so, and he's come from the FC Dallas system, which I think develops really, really competent players with the ball. He went to Wake Forest. Obviously, his time at Toronto was good before his injury, and he's a guy that just is very composed. And so I'd see him playing a little bit lower in the field, and that's what he's done so far for us in the preseason. And then the piece he's added to his game is just the aggressiveness against the ball that I didn't know if he had or not, and he's really answered that question quite well.
Great. Thank you, Troy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Donald. Next and finally, we'll go to Diego Reyes.
Hey, Troy, good to hear from you again. I just wanted to ask you a quick question about the final preseason match against the Houston Dynamo. What's going on through you and the coaching staff's mindset when it comes to balancing player health, competition, like finding a way to win the game, and like kind of what's going on through your head when it comes to the final game of preseason?
Yeah, I think like most teams, we've been kind of building towards the physical side and making sure that we get as many players the minutes that they need as possible through these 4, 5, 6 weeks. And then the next piece is also implementing more of what we want our game model to look like. And so now we're a week away from the season. We'd like to push guys that we project to be in the starting lineup against Toronto as long as we can, while also being aware of some of the injuries that we do have that are little day-to-day things, and try not to go too crazy with the final match. But this will be a really good test, and we certainly know how good Houston was last year, the last 2 years with Ben Olsen, who, as we throw around that word legend, certainly is a DC United legend. And I'm looking forward to seeing him and looking forward to seeing how his group will test us, because they certainly will.
And talking a lot about vision, mindset, what is one thing that you would like to tell the fans ahead of that opening weekend?
Look, what I'd like to tell our supporters is I can't wait to see them. I can't wait to celebrate at Audi Field the start of the 2025 season with them. And we've made it a big objective this year that last year I think they got to see what we're capable of in just little small periods of time. And it was sometimes you'd see us be at our best, but certainly not all the time last year. And so that's our goal, is to provide that all the time, particularly at Audi Field. And this is something that we have to improve from last year. When we talk about improvements that we need to make, it's our home form, and we want to celebrate with our fans in the right way. And that's to deliver 3 points for them every single time out. And that's our objective as we prepare for next weekend. Versus Houston this weekend, we have an opportunity to really prepare ourselves in the right way going into what will be our final week going into Toronto next week.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks so much, Troy. That's all we have.
All right. Thanks, guys.